For cheap gold, items and other boosts for Diablo 4, visit aoeah.com. Check out the link in the description, you get 3% off with the code ARIAD. Hello and welcome everybody. With the new meta, the damage of characters is being rescaled and many once strong builds are losing power. In this video, you'll learn which levers you can pull to boost your character's damage. The general damage calculation hasn't changed, here you can see the formula. We can ignore the enemy's damage reduction for now, since we can't influence it anyway. The weapon damage still forms the base value, but in the new meta, this value shrinks a lot. The item power gets reduced and the damage even more. The skill you use is also crucial. The percentage of damage it deals can be found in the skill description. For many skills, the amount increases with higher skill levels. Then your main attribute also factors into the calculation, so that's willpower for druids, strength for barbarians, dexterity for rogues, and intelligence for necromancers and sorcs. A higher value adds more damage. Next come the additive and multiplicative damage increases, which your character gets from equipment, expertise, skill tree, and the paragon system. Additive increases, as the name suggests, are summed up and form another multiplier in the calculation. Multiplicative increases, on the other hand, each represent a separate multiplier in the calculation, which is why they are generally much stronger. Additive increases include all damage affixes on your gear, and the blue and yellow damage nodes in the paragon system are always additive too. Sometimes additive damage is marked by a plus sign in square brackets. Multiplicative increases are marked by a cross in square brackets. You can find them on aspects and unique item effects, passive skills in the skill tree, and legendary paragon nodes. Additionally, many bonuses from the class-specific expertises are multiplicative as well. The affixes your items gain from tempering are generally additive, except for the weapon recipes. These can provide some multiplicative damage bonuses. Glyphs have always been a significant factor in character building, because they also can offer multiplicative damage increases, and in the new meta, glyphs even play a bigger role. The maximum number is reduced to 5, so making the right choice is even more important, and glyphs can now be leveled up to 100 and get a greater radius. The additive bonuses that scale with the attribute points are much higher, and additionally, every glyph gains a third effect at level 46, which is always a multiplicative damage increase. As a result, all glyphs become significantly stronger, and some glyphs now even offer 2 multiplicative damage bonuses in total. There are further factors that increase your damage. Higher attack speed, for example, increases your damage output as well, even if it doesn't result in higher numbers. The damage is just delivered to the monsters more frequently. Vulnerability brings an additional damage multiplier into play, so your build should have a mechanic to make enemies vulnerable regularly. Some buffs like the Barbarian's Warcry can temporarily increase your damage, and with the runes and some new items, it will be possible to use effects from other classes, like with the rune Om. Critical strikes also provide an additional multiplier in the damage calculation, making them particularly strong. With a high critical strike chance, you ensure to critically strike more often. These are the yellow damage numbers that pop up. Some builds can also implement a mechanic for regular overpower hits, because overpower damage adds another multiplier to the damage calculation. Typical builds that use overpower damage are landslide and pulverized druids, bone or blood spirit necromancers, and barbarians using hammer of the ancients. Overpower damage is marked with light blue numbers, and critical overpower damage with orange numbers. However, be aware that all damage over time, whether poison, fire, shadow or bleeding, cannot critically strike or overpower. These damage ticks will always show as white numbers. To avoid misunderstandings, the multipliers for damage to vulnerable enemies, critical strike damage and overpower damage are fixed values, and they don't get increased by your affixes. For regular hits, these values are simply equal to 1, or you can leave them out of the calculation. Critical strike damage or damage to vulnerable affixes are generally summed up with the additive multiplier, just like all other damage types. Most damage bonuses have conditions under which they apply. Core skill damage, for example, only applies to core skills, and damage to vulnerable enemies is only calculated if the enemy is actually vulnerable. The different damage types are explained in the stats. Here you can see damage to crowd-controlled enemies. Multiplicative increases also can have conditions under which they work. It is always explained in the text. The 30% damage increase from the aspect only works when the enemies are poisoned, which is why my druid keeps using his poison creeper. 30% damage increase results in a factor of 1.3 in the calculation, and all such multiplicative damage factors are multiplied together. That's why this is such a powerful lever for you to maximize your damage. You want to use as many multiplicative damage increases as possible in your build, and also fulfill their conditions. By the way, put the rune words into a two-handed weapon if possible. Since the high glyphs already provide high additive damage increases, it's much more worthwhile to socket gems into armor pieces, to increase your character's primary attribute. So you're up to date on the damage mechanics and their key factors. I'm signing off for today. Take care and may the loot be with you.
Follow me. Thanks. Goodbye.